My name is Emily, and if you had met me 2 years ago, you probably would have called me lucky.
I had a caring husband named Daniel, a comfortable home, a steady job, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. But the biggest mistakes in life rarely begin with hatred. They begin with pride.
I didn't cheat on my husband. At least, that's what I kept telling myself. I believed I was innocent because I never crossed the line physically. What I failed to understand was that sometimes the heart can drift away long before the body does. And by the time I realized it, the man who loved me most had already packed his suitcase. Daniel wasn't the type of man who argued. He wasn't loud. He didn't slam doors. He believed every problem could be solved through conversation. That was one of the reasons I fell in love with him. He made me feel safe. Even during difficult times, his calm voice reminded me that everything would be okay. For 7 years, we built a peaceful marriage together. Of course, we had disagreements like every couple. But we always apologized before going to bed. Or at least, we used to. Everything slowly changed after I started working at a new marketing company. That's where I met Ryan. Ryan was friendly, funny, confident. Everyone liked him. Within weeks, we became close friends. We had lunch together with our co-workers. We laughed at the same jokes. Sometimes we stayed after work discussing projects. To me, he was simply my best friend at the office. Nothing more. At least, that's what I believed. One Friday evening, Daniel asked gently, "Emily, can I ask you something?" I looked up from my phone. "Sure." He hesitated. "Do you think Ryan likes you as more than a friend?" I laughed. Actually, I laughed so hard that I nearly spilled my coffee. "Seriously?" Daniel smiled weakly. "I'm just asking." "Oh my goodness." I shook my head. "You're actually jealous?" "I'm not jealous. I just noticed the way he looks at you." I rolled my eyes. "Daniel, you're imagining things." He didn't argue. He simply nodded. "Maybe I am." Looking back, I wish I had listened instead of laughing. Over the following months, Ryan became a bigger part of my daily life. We texted about work, then about movies, then about random things. Sometimes he sent memes late at night. I replied without thinking. Daniel never checked my phone. He trusted me completely. That trust was something I slowly took for granted. One evening, Daniel cooked my favorite pasta. Candles were lit on the dining table. He had planned a surprise date night. I arrived home almost an hour late. "I'm sorry," I said while placing my bag down. We lost track of time. "Work?" Daniel asked. "Yeah. Actually, Ryan and I had stopped for coffee after work. I didn't think it mattered." Daniel smiled anyway. "It's okay." The pasta had gone cold. He quietly reheated it. I never noticed the disappointment in his eyes. Weeks later, our friends organized a barbecue. Everyone was laughing. Ryan happened to be there too. During one conversation, Ryan joked, "If Emily weren't already married, I'd probably ask her out." Everyone laughed, including me. I even nudged Ryan's shoulder playfully. Daniel didn't laugh. On the drive home, he finally spoke. That joke made me uncomfortable. "Oh, come on. It was harmless." He wasn't joking. "You always overthink everything." "I'm not accusing you. I'm telling you how I feel." I sighed dramatically. "Can we please not do this?" He became quiet. The silence lasted the entire drive home. The distance between us grew slowly. Not because Daniel stopped loving me, but because I stopped listening. Whenever he tried expressing his feelings, I called him insecure. Whenever he looked sad, I assumed he was overreacting. Whenever he asked for more time together, I reminded him how busy work had become. What I never admitted was that I was giving my emotional energy to someone else without realizing it. One Sunday morning, Daniel asked, "Would you like to spend the day hiking together?" I smiled apologetically. "I can't. Ryan needs help preparing a presentation." Daniel looked surprised. "On a Sunday? He's my friend." He nodded slowly. "Of course." He never tried stopping me. He simply watched me leave. That evening I came home excited. The presentation went great. Daniel smiled. "I'm happy for you." Then he quietly asked, "Did you enjoy spending time with him?" "Yes." There was another long silence. Finally he whispered, "I miss spending time with you too." Those words should have broken my heart. Instead, I became defensive. "You know what? I'm tired of this jealousy." His face fell. "I'm not jealous. I miss my wife." For the first time, I had no answer. Days turned into months. Ryan remained my closest friend. Daniel remained patient. Almost too patient. Sometimes I caught him staring at old photographs from our vacations. Sometimes I noticed him eating dinner alone because I was working late. Sometimes I found him smiling sadly whenever I canceled our plans. I kept promising, "Things will slow down soon." They never did. One rainy evening I forgot my charger at work. When I returned to the office, the building was nearly empty. Ryan was still there. He smiled. "I knew you'd come back." As we talked, he suddenly said something unexpected. "You know, if life had been different, I think we would have made a great couple." My smile disappeared. For the first time, Daniel's words echoed inside my mind. I forced a laugh. "You're kidding." Ryan looked directly into my eyes. I wasn't. Before I could respond, my phone rang. It was Daniel. I stared at the screen. Then, I pressed decline. I told myself I'd call him back in a few minutes. I had no idea that one small decision would change everything. I left the office feeling uneasy. Ryan's confession kept replaying in my mind. For the first time, I realized Daniel hadn't been jealous, he had simply noticed what I refused to see. When I reached home, the house was silent. A packed suitcase stood by the front door. Daniel sat on the couch, holding our wedding photo. His eyes were calm, but full of heartbreak. "I never wanted to control you," he said quietly. "I only wanted to feel like I still mattered." Tears filled my eyes. "I'm so sorry, Daniel. I thought you were just being insecure." He gently shook his head. "It wasn't Ryan that hurt me. It was watching my wife share her time, laughter, and heart with someone else while I slowly became a stranger in my own home." His words shattered me. At that moment, my phone buzzed. It was Ryan. I answered and said, "Our friendship ends today. My marriage is more important. Please don't contact me again." Then I blocked his number. I turned back to Daniel. "I can't erase the pain I've caused, but if you'll give me one chance, I'll spend every day earning your trust again." For a long moment, neither of us spoke. Finally, Daniel unpacked the suitcase. "I'm staying," he whispered. "Not because the pain disappeared, but because I still believe people can change when their apology is backed by actions." The months that followed weren't easy. We went on evening walks, talked honestly, and rebuilt our relationship one conversation at a time. Trust didn't return overnight, but kindness, patience, and consistent effort slowly healed what pride had almost destroyed. A year later, we celebrated our anniversary in the same little restaurant where we had our first date. Daniel smiled and held my hand. This feels like falling in love with you all over again.
I smiled through happy tears.
So do I. That day I learned a lesson I'll never forget. Love doesn't usually end because of one big mistake. It fades through small moments of neglect, ignored feelings, and unspoken pain. But when two people choose humility, honesty, and forgiveness, even a broken heart can find its way home. The greatest gift you can give your spouse isn't expensive.
Presence, it's making them feel seen, heard, and chosen every single day.
Red Heart.